It had been a month since she left. A month. I didn't think it would feel this long, but it did. The days stretched on like endless highways, each one blurring into the next, all of them marked by her absence. The house felt empty, colder, quieter without her. The first few days, I was lost in confusion. I kept asking myself, where did it all go wrong? I couldn't understand why she had left, why she had walked out without any explanation. All I knew was that everything had changed. She didn't even say goodbye. It wasn't a fight that made her leave, not a huge argument that pushed her out the door. No, it was a cold silence. One day she was there laughing, smiling, holding my hand, and the next, she was gone. It wasn't even that dramatic. She just packed her things, left a note that said, "I need space," and walked out. I tried calling her, texting her, but there was nothing. No reply, no acknowledgement. I was left alone sitting in our empty living room, questioning everything I thought I knew about us. For weeks, I didn't hear from her. I didn't know where she went, what she was doing. All I had were the walls of our house, now filled with only memories of the life we once had. The laughter, the arguments, the quiet moments, everything was gone. I tried to focus on work, on the daily routine, but every minute felt like a lifetime. I was stuck in this strange limbo, neither here nor there. My thoughts kept drifting back to her. Where was she? Was she okay? And the hardest question of all, did she miss me? I hadn't heard a word from her in weeks. Then, one day, out of nowhere, my phone buzzed. It was a text from her. "Can we talk?" That was it. 3 words, and I felt 1,000 things at once. Shock, confusion, curiosity. I didn't know what to think. It had been a month. A whole month without any contact, without any explanation. Now she was asking if we could talk. Part of me wanted to ignore it, to move on, to tell myself that I deserved better. But the other part of me, the part that still loved her, still clung to the hope of fixing things, wanted answers. I wanted to know why she left, why she had disappeared without a trace. I quickly typed a response, "Where have you been? Why now?" Her reply came almost instantly, "I miss you. I need to see you." The message left me unsettled. How could she miss me? How could she come back after a month of silence and just expect everything to be the same? I wasn't sure I could trust her anymore. No, I wasn't sure I could look at her the same way again. But I agreed. I needed to know why. I needed closure, even if it hurt. We agreed to meet at the park, a neutral place, away from everything that had been our home. When I arrived, I couldn't see her at first. It felt like waiting for a lifetime. I kept pacing, my mind racing with all the questions I'd been carrying for weeks. Why had she left? Who was she with? What had happened during the past month that I didn't know about? Then I saw her. She was sitting on a bench, her back to me, staring out into the distance. For a moment, I just stood there, watching her. She looked different. Her posture was more slumped than I remembered, her face pale and tired. She wasn't the confident, happy woman I had known. It was like a part of her had been taken away. And then, when she turned and saw me, there was a flash of guilt in her eyes, a guilt that hadn't been there before. She stood up slowly, almost hesitantly. "I'm glad you came," she said, her voice soft, almost fragile. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know how to feel. The woman I had loved, the woman who had shared everything with me, was now standing in front of me, someone I didn't recognize. "I don't even know where to start," she said, her eyes searching mine, as if she was looking for something. "I've been so messed up, and I know I hurt you. I'm so sorry." The apology felt hollow, empty. Was she sorry because she had hurt me? Or was she sorry because she had been caught? "Why did you leave?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper, but heavy with the weight of the question. She took a deep breath, her hands trembling slightly as she wrung them together. I didn't know what else to do. I didn't know how to fix what was broken between us. I looked at her, studying her face for any sign of the woman I used to know. But there was nothing there. Just a stranger, standing in front of me, trying to explain away the mess she had made. "I've been confused," she continued, her voice cracking. "I didn't know who I was anymore. I didn't know how to be with you when everything felt so wrong. So I left. I needed space to think." I felt a wave of frustration rush through me. "You didn't need space. You just left. You didn't tell me anything. You didn't even give me a chance to understand. You just walked away." Her eyes filled with tears, but she didn't wipe them away. She let them fall. "I thought I was doing the right thing," she said, her voice barely audible now. "I thought I needed to figure things out on my own. But I was wrong. I wanted to scream. I wanted to yell at her for leaving me, for making me feel like I was nothing. But I didn't. Instead, I stood there, my chest tight, my heart racing, waiting for her to explain. She finally looked up at me, her eyes filled with a kind of vulnerability I hadn't seen in a long time. "I need to ask you something," she said softly, almost as if she was afraid of the answer. I nodded, though my mind was already racing with questions. She took a deep breath, her voice barely above a whisper. "Do you miss me?" The question hit me like a punch in the gut. How could she ask me that? After everything she had put me through, after everything she had done, she wanted to know if I missed her? I didn't know how to answer. I didn't know if I missed her, if I could miss her after what she had done. But the truth was, a part of me still wanted her. A part of me still longed for the woman who had once been my everything. I looked at her, my heart torn between anger and love, between the need to protect myself and the desire to have her back in my life. I didn't know if I could ever trust her again, but the hurt inside me was real. The emptiness was real. And deep down, a small part of me still wanted to believe that maybe, just maybe, we could find a way back to each other. The question hung in the air, like an invisible weight. "Do you miss me?" She asked it so softly, her eyes searching mine, but there was something almost calculating in the way she held her breath, waiting for my response. I stared at her for what felt like an eternity. Her words rang through my head, each syllable reverberating with something I couldn't quite place. Did I miss her? How could I? After everything that had happened, how could I miss the woman who had betrayed me so completely? I tried to focus, to find the right words, but I couldn't. The silence between us stretched on, thick and suffocating, as I watched her stand there, vulnerable and uncertain. Did I miss her? The answer wasn't as simple as I wanted it to be. Yes, part of me missed the woman I thought I knew. I missed the laughter we shared, the quiet mornings with her curled up next to me, the plans we'd made for the future. But I also missed the idea of her, the version of her that I had built in my mind, the one who had never betrayed me, who had never hurt me. But the truth was, that woman didn't exist anymore, and it was hard to admit that. The hurt still lingered, raw and painful. It was still so fresh in my mind, her leaving without warning, the months of silence that followed, the unanswered questions. How could she just walk away like that? How could she betray me so completely, and then come back, acting like nothing had happened? I didn't answer right away, and she must have sensed my hesitation because she took a step closer, her eyes searching mine for any sign of what I was thinking. "I know you are angry," she said quietly, her voice trembling slightly, "and I don't blame you for that. I don't even deserve your forgiveness. But please, just tell me, do you miss me?" I swallowed hard. The words caught in my throat. I didn't want to admit it, but I couldn't lie to her. Not in that moment. "I don't know," I said, my voice shaky and filled with a quiet anger I could no longer keep inside. "I don't know if I miss you the way I used to." Her face fell, and for a brief second, I saw the woman I had once loved, the one who was vulnerable, who was broken and scared. She closed her eyes for a moment, taking a shaky breath before speaking again. "I've made so many mistakes," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "I know I hurt you, and I know I broke everything between us. But I don't want to lose you. I don't want to lose what we had." I stepped back, trying to distance myself from the raw emotion in her voice. "What we had," I repeated, the bitterness creeping into my words. "What we had was real. I thought it was real. But you threw it all away. You didn't just walk out on me, Anna. You left without even telling me why. You didn't even have the decency to explain." The anger started to bubble up inside me, hotter now, and I couldn't hold it back. I had spent weeks in the quiet pain of her absence, replaying every moment, every argument, every small sign that something had been wrong long before she left. It was like I had been living in a dream, convinced everything was fine, only to wake up and realize I had been lied to the whole time. I didn't just walk out on you. She stopped herself, her face contorting with emotion. I didn't know how to fix it. I didn't know how to talk to you anymore. I was so lost. I felt like you were slipping away from me. And then, when I met him, Daniel, he listened to me. He made me feel seen when I didn't feel like you were looking at me anymore. And it just happened. I never meant for it to go this far. But it did. I took a step back from her, unable to control the rush of emotions flooding through me. So that's it? I asked, my voice shaking. You didn't feel seen, so you decided to go to someone else? You decided that lying and sneaking around behind my back was the solution? Her eyes filled with tears, and she shook her head, clearly devastated by the hurt in my voice. No, she said, her voice breaking. I didn't mean for it to be like this. I was so lost. I didn't know who to turn to, and Daniel, he was there. He was there when you weren't. The pain of her words hit me like a slap. How could she say that? How could she reduce everything we had to a simple excuse? I was there, I said, struggling to keep my voice steady. I was always there. I tried, Anna. I tried to be the husband you needed. But somewhere along the way, you stopped trusting me. You stopped caring. Her tears were falling freely now, but I didn't feel sympathy. I couldn't. Not anymore. Why didn't you tell me? I asked, my voice raw. Why didn't you come to me? Why didn't you tell me you were feeling neglected instead of going behind my back? I didn't know how, she whispered, her voice barely audible. I didn't know how to talk to you anymore. I felt like we were growing apart, and I didn't know how to fix it. I was scared. Scared? I repeated, my voice rising again. You were scared? So you went to another man? You betrayed me, Anna. And now you want me to just forget about it because you were scared? That's not how this works. That's not how life works. She stood there, her hands trembling, as if she didn't know how to respond. There was a long silence, and for a moment, all I could hear was the pounding of my own heart. The hurt, the betrayal, it was all so fresh, so raw. I didn't know what to feel anymore. I didn't want to hate her. I didn't want to be angry, but I couldn't help it. I was angry. Angry that she had kept this from me. Angry that she had chosen him over me. And even though I knew I was justified in my feelings, part of me still wanted to reach out, to comfort her, to tell her that everything would be okay. But I couldn't. I couldn't be the man she needed anymore. I couldn't be the man who would just forgive and forget. I turned away from her, walking a few steps before stopping. You don't get to do this to me, I said quietly, my voice trembling. You don't get to break my heart and then come back and ask me if I miss you. You left, Anna. You left without a word, without any explanation. And now you want me to act like it never happened? Her voice was desperate now, her words coming in a rush. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, I made a mistake. I didn't mean to hurt you. I never wanted to lose you. Please don't leave me. I turned around to face her, my eyes burning with unshed tears. You already left me, Anna, I said, my voice breaking. You left me when you went to him. And now, after everything, I don't know how I'm supposed to feel. I don't know how I'm supposed to trust you again. The air between us felt thick, heavy with the weight of everything unsaid. She reached out to me, but I stepped back, shaking my head. I can't do this. I can't keep pretending that everything's fine. I need to think. I need time. Her eyes widened with a mix of fear and regret. But I couldn't look at her anymore. I couldn't stand to see her standing there, pleading, when she had already made her choice. Please, she whispered. But I couldn't hear her. I had already made up my mind. I stood there, my back turned to her, as the weight of everything we'd just spoken about crashed into me like a tidal wave. I couldn't make sense of it all. The woman I thought I knew, the woman I thought I had built a future with, had betrayed me in a way I couldn't begin to comprehend. And now, here she was, standing in front of me, broken and pleading, asking me to just forgive her? I didn't know what I was supposed to do. Was I supposed to forgive her? Was I supposed to pretend like nothing happened? Could I? Could I really let this go? Could I just forget that she had been with someone else? Someone who was not only a stranger to me, but someone I had no idea was even in our lives? The silence between us stretched for what felt like an eternity, thick and suffocating. I could feel her presence behind me, but it felt so distant, as if we were miles apart instead of just a few feet. I didn't want to turn around and face her. I didn't want to see the tears in her eyes or hear her broken apologies. I didn't want to see her pretending that she hadn't just shattered everything. But I knew I had to. I had to face her. I had to hear her side of the story. Even if it hurt, even if it tore me apart to do so, I couldn't move forward without hearing the truth from her. I took a deep breath and turned slowly, forcing myself to meet her gaze. She was standing there, her eyes swollen from crying, her hands trembling at her sides. I could see the desperation in her eyes, the hope that somehow I would forgive her, that I would accept her back and let everything go. But how could I? How could I ever forget that she had chosen someone else over me? How could I look at her the same way after all the lies, all the broken promises? "You're sorry," I said, my voice low but steady, my words laced with bitterness. But how many times have you said that? How many times have you told me you were sorry when you did something wrong? And yet, here we are again. You've hurt me again. You've broken me again. She opened her mouth to speak, but I raised my hand, stopping her. "No," I said firmly. "I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear your excuses anymore. I don't want to hear how sorry you are. The truth is, Anna, you've done this to me. You've chosen him. And you left me with nothing." Her face twisted with pain as she stepped forward, her voice pleading. "I never wanted to hurt you. I never wanted to choose him over you. But I was so lost, so confused. I didn't know what else to do. I needed someone. I needed someone to care about me, to listen to me. And Daniel, he was there when you weren't." The words hit me like a slap. She needed someone to care about her. Was that all it was? Had I really failed her that much? Was I so wrapped up in work, in everything else, that I had failed to see what was happening right in front of me? Her eyes were filled with tears, but I couldn't find it in me to feel sorry for her. She had made her choice. She had let another man into our lives, into our marriage. She had crossed a line, and there was no coming back from that. "Daniel," I repeated, now the name tasting bitter on my tongue. "So, that's who you've been seeing behind my back. That's who you've been sharing your time with while I was at work, while I thought everything was fine." She nodded, her lip trembling as she spoke. "Yes, Daniel. We met through work. At first, it was nothing, just casual conversation. But then, it turned into something more. And before I knew it, I couldn't stop." "You couldn't stop," I repeated, my voice rising in anger. "You couldn't stop. You couldn't even tell me? You couldn't come to me and say you were unhappy? You couldn't talk to me? Instead, you went behind my back and betrayed everything we had." She shook her head, her face twisted with guilt. "I didn't know how to talk to you," she said quietly. "I didn't know how to tell you I was feeling neglected, that you were always too busy for me, that I was feeling invisible. You were always at work, always on the phone, always doing something else. I felt like I was losing you. And when Daniel came into my life, it felt like someone finally saw me. He made me feel important. He made me feel loved." The words stung, each one like a knife to the heart. So, that was it. She hadn't cheated because of a single mistake. She had cheated because she felt neglected, because I hadn't been giving her enough attention. And instead of coming to me, instead of talking to me about it, she had gone to him. She had let him fill the void I hadn't even known was there. The anger I had been holding back started to boil over. "So, you didn't even think to talk to me. You didn't think that maybe, just maybe, I had been busy because I was trying to provide for us. I was trying to make sure we had everything we needed. I was trying to build a future for us, and you couldn't see that. You couldn't see how much I loved you." She was crying openly now, her face buried in her hands. "I didn't mean to hurt you. I never meant for any of this to happen. I'm so sorry. I was just so lonely. And I thought you didn't care about me anymore." The pain in her voice was real, and I couldn't deny that part of me still cared about her. I still loved her, despite everything. But the betrayal, the hurt, it was too much. "You don't get to play the victim, Anna," I said, my voice shaking with anger and heartbreak. "You don't get to act like you didn't know what you were doing. You made a choice. You chose him. And now, you want me to feel sorry for you? You want me to forgive you? She looked up at me, her face streaked with tears, and for a moment I saw the woman I had once loved, the woman I had trusted, the woman who had stood by my side for years. But that woman was gone. She had left with Daniel, and all that was left was a shell of what we once had. I don't know what to do anymore, she whispered, her voice breaking. I don't know how to fix this. I don't know how to fix me. I stared at her for a long time, the silence stretching between us. I wanted to reach out to her, to comfort her, but I couldn't. Not after what she had done. Not after everything we had been through. I don't think you can fix this, I said quietly, my voice hollow. You've already broken it. You've already destroyed everything we had. She collapsed onto the bench, her hands clutching her face as she sobbed uncontrollably. I stood there watching her, feeling a deep sense of loss. But I couldn't move toward her. I couldn't comfort her. Because the truth was, I was broken too. I had been betrayed, and I couldn't go back to the way things were. Not after this. The silence stretched on, and I finally spoke again, my words low and final. I think it's time for you to go. She looked up at me, her eyes wide with shock. What? I think it's time for you to go, Anna, I repeated, my voice steady, but filled with finality. I can't do this anymore. I can't live in this lie, in this broken relationship. I need to heal, and I can't do that with you here, reminding me of everything I've lost. Her face crumbled, and she reached out for me one last time. But I took a step back, unable to accept her touch. And it wasn't the same. It could never be the same. The moment I walked out of that door, it felt like the ground had shifted beneath me. I had just told her to leave my wife, the woman I had loved for years, the woman I thought I knew. And yet, it wasn't a relief. It wasn't a sense of finality, not in the way I expected. I felt like I had just torn a page from my life that I couldn't ever turn back to. The house, which had once been a place of comfort, of shared meals, of laughter and quiet moments together, now felt foreign. The air seemed thinner, like there was nothing left to hold it up. I stood there in the hallway, my hand still on the door handle, trying to shake off the tremor in my limbs. I had made the decision. I had done it. I had told her the truth, told her that everything between us was broken, that I couldn't forgive her for what she'd done. But why did it still feel like I had lost something? Why did it feel like I was the one being punished? I hadn't expected to feel this empty. I hadn't expected it to hurt this much. The weight of it all, the hurt, the betrayal, the disappointment, was heavier than I imagined it would be. The tears I hadn't allowed myself to shed were threatening to break through, but I held them in. I wasn't sure I had the strength to cry. I hadn't even heard the door close behind me. I was standing outside now, the cold wind biting at my skin. It was early evening, the sky a dull gray, and the streets were quieter than usual. I could hear the sound of my own breath, harsh and uneven, but I couldn't bring myself to care. I felt numb. I was supposed to feel free, supposed to feel like I had regained control over my life, but all I felt was a deep ache in my chest. Where do I go from here? What do I do with all the memories I had of her? The years we spent together, all the things we promised to each other, did any of it matter anymore? Or had it all been a lie? I didn't know how long I stood there, lost in my thoughts, but I couldn't stay on the street. I needed to move. I needed to get away from the place that held all of our shared history, the place that no longer felt like mine. I walked aimlessly for a while, barely noticing where I was going. The streets blurred together as my feet carried me, unseeing, to places I didn't even know. I didn't know what I was looking for. Was it a sense of relief, a place to hide? Or was I just running away from the emotions that were eating away at me from the inside? I found myself in a small park near the edge of town, the kind of place I used to walk through with her on weekends. I had come here with her so many times, just the two of us, sitting on the swings, talking about our dreams, laughing about stupid things. It used to be our place of peace, but now it felt like a mockery of everything I had lost. I sat on one of the park benches, my hands gripping the sides of the seat, trying to focus on my breathing. The cool evening air burned my lungs, but it didn't clear my head. My thoughts kept circling back to her, to the betrayal, to the empty promises, to the way she had walked away from me. I thought about the night she left, how she had packed her things without a word, without even looking back, and that I had tried to talk to her, but she had turned away, shutting me out. I had asked her where she was going, why she was leaving, but all she said was, "I need space." No explanation, no real reason. Now here I was, a month later, sitting in a park, broken and defeated. She had left without a fight, and now she was back, asking me if I missed her. Miss her? How could I miss someone who had done this to me? How could I miss her after everything? I wanted to scream the words out loud, but instead, I just sat there in silence, wrestling with the painful truth. But still, despite the anger, despite the betrayal, there was a part of me that wanted to know. I wanted to know why. I wanted her to explain everything in the affair with Daniel, the lies, the silence. I wanted to hear her side of the story, even though I knew deep down that there was nothing she could say that would change what had happened. I sat there, staring blankly ahead, watching the world go on around me. People walked by, their faces blurred by the weight of my thoughts. I didn't belong in this world anymore. Not with her, not with my old life. The cold wind whipped through the trees, but it didn't seem to reach me. I felt like I was stuck in some kind of limbo, neither here nor there, unsure of what I was supposed to do next. The one thing I knew for sure was that everything had changed. Nothing would ever be the same. The next day, I spent the night in a cheap motel, trying to find some kind of peace. The bed was uncomfortable, the room smelled faintly of mildew, and I felt like a stranger in my own life. The weight of everything was too much to bear, and I didn't want to face the reality of the situation. I needed time, time to think, time to breathe. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of my phone buzzing. I didn't recognize the number. I didn't want to answer it, but I did anyway. I wasn't ready to hear from Anna yet, but I needed to know if she had tried to reach me. "Hello?" I said, my voice hoarse. "Is this protagonist's name?" The voice on the other end was unfamiliar, rough with an accent I couldn't place. I wasn't sure who it was. "Yes," I answered, confused. "Who's this?" "My name is Mark," the voice said. "I'm Daniel's friend. He wanted me to get in touch with you." Daniel. The name hit me like a punch to the stomach. What the hell was Daniel doing contacting me? What could he possibly have to say? "Why are you calling me?" I asked, my voice shaking with disbelief. Mark hesitated before speaking again, and when he did, his tone was more serious. "I don't know how to tell you this, but Daniel, he's in a bad situation. I think you need to know what's really going on with Anna. You deserve the truth." The phone call from Mark caught me completely off guard. I wasn't sure what to expect when I answered, but I never imagined it would be someone connected to Daniel, someone who had witnessed the relationship that had been going on behind my back. I had only just started to process everything that had happened, and now, with one phone call, the walls of my understanding were crumbling again. "Is this protagonist's name?" Mark's voice was rough, like he'd been awake all night. "I'm Daniel's friend. He asked me to get in touch with you." Daniel's friend. The man who had stolen my wife. The man who had shattered everything I knew and loved. I didn't want to talk to him. I didn't want to hear what he had to say. But something in his voice, something about the urgency made me pause. "Why are you calling me?" I asked, my voice tight, barely containing the anger that was building up inside me. "I think you deserve to know the full truth," Mark said, his words coming in quick bursts. "There's a lot more to what happened between Anna and Daniel than you're aware of, and you need to hear it." The words hit me like a punch to the gut. More? What more could there possibly be? What more was there to uncover? Wasn't everything already shattered? But the fact that Mark seemed so insistent made me realize that maybe I wasn't getting the full picture. Maybe I was still in the dark about things that I needed to understand before I could move forward. I took a deep breath and tried to keep my voice steady. "What do you mean? What exactly do you know?" Mark hesitated as if he was weighing how much to reveal, but then he spoke, his words slow and deliberate. "I'm not saying Daniel's a saint, but he didn't mean to hurt you. He's not the one who started this whole mess. Anna came to him first, more than once. She reached out to him because of the issues between you two. She was unhappy. And Daniel, he was there. He listened to her when you couldn't, when she felt ignored by you. It started off as something innocent, but it quickly turned into more. I felt my heart race, the anger and confusion rising like a tidal wave inside me. I had known Anna was unhappy. I had sensed that things weren't right, but I never imagined it had gone this far. She had been so good at hiding it, so convincing in her words, that everything was fine, that I couldn't see the cracks until they were too wide to ignore. Mark's voice continued, but now it felt like he was speaking from a place of guilt. She told Daniel she was feeling ignored by you, that she needed someone to pay attention to her. She was lonely, man, and you know how it is. When someone feels alone, they'll find someone else to fill that void. Daniel didn't know what he was getting into at first. He thought he was just being a friend, just listening to her. But it wasn't long before things crossed a line, and Anna didn't back out. She didn't stop. I could barely breathe. The air around me felt heavy and thick with the realization that I had been completely blind to what had been happening under my nose. I had been so focused on the idea of us, of keeping our relationship together, that I hadn't seen the reality of how far she had already gone, how much she had already let him in. "Why are you telling me this now?" I asked, my voice low and shaky. "Why couldn't she tell me this herself?" Mark let out a sigh, the sound thick with regret. "I didn't want to be the one to break it to you. I never wanted to be in the middle of this. But Daniel, he's feeling guilty. He's seeing what this has done to you, to Anna. He doesn't want to cause any more pain. I'm just trying to help you understand what's been going on. You deserve to know the truth, and I think you deserve to hear it from someone who's been on the outside, someone who saw it all unfold." I ran a hand through my hair, struggling to process what Mark had said. So much of it made sense now. The late nights Anna had claimed were work-related, the sudden distance between us, the coldness I had been feeling for months, but I couldn't help but wonder, how much had she really been hiding? How far had this relationship with Daniel gone before she even decided to leave me? "Is there anything else?" I asked, my voice hoarse, though I didn't know if I even wanted to hear the answer. Mark paused before answering. "I don't know the details, man. I don't know how deep it went, but from what Anna told Daniel, it wasn't just physical. She was emotionally invested. She was in love with him." The words cut through me like a blade. She had been in love with him? I had always assumed it was a fling, a mistake, a moment of weakness. But this was different. She had been emotionally involved. She had been lying to me, giving her heart to someone else while I thought everything was fine. I could feel the heat rise in my chest, the anger building, threatening to consume me. "So, she was in love with him," I repeated, the words tasting bitter on my tongue. "And she never thought to tell me? She never thought to talk to me about it?" "I don't know what to tell you," Mark said, his voice quieter now. "I'm just giving you the facts. I'm sorry for the part I played in this, but you have to hear it. If you're going to move on, you need to know everything." My hand clenched into a fist as I tried to steady my breathing. My heart was racing and my thoughts were a jumbled mess of anger and disbelief. I had trusted her. I had loved her. And all along, she had been lying to me. All along, she had been giving herself to someone else. I hung up the phone without saying goodbye. I didn't know what I was supposed to feel, but all I could do was stand there, lost in the reality of it all. She had betrayed me, and not just in a fleeting moment of weakness. No, this had been an affair. This had been something deep, something real. She had fallen in love with him. I didn't know how I was supposed to face her now. I didn't know how I was supposed to look at her and pretend like I didn't know what she had done. I thought about the phone call. I thought about the things Mark had said. And then I made a decision. I couldn't keep living in this lie. I couldn't keep pretending like nothing had changed. I had to confront her again, face to face. It was the only way I could get the closure I needed, the answers I had been searching for. But I wasn't sure I was ready for what was coming next. The following days felt like they were dragging on, every hour stretching longer than the last. My mind was a whirlwind of anger, betrayal, confusion, and regret. What had happened to us? What had happened to the trust we had built over the years? The foundation that I thought was solid had crumbled into dust, and now, here I was, drowning in the aftermath of her choices. After speaking with Mark, I couldn't keep the questions locked inside me any longer. I couldn't pretend that everything was fine when I knew, deep down, that Anna had crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. I wasn't the same person anymore. I couldn't be. And I didn't know how to move forward unless I had all the answers. I tried to avoid her calls. I couldn't bring myself to talk to her, to hear her voice, knowing everything I had learned. But then came the text message. I need to see you. Please, let's talk. The nerve she had. After everything, she still wanted to talk. She still thought there was a chance for us. But how could I talk to her? How could I look at the woman who had betrayed me so deeply and act like things could go back to normal? But despite all the anger and confusion swirling inside me, I knew I had to face her. I couldn't live with these unanswered questions. I needed closure, even if it shattered me completely. So I agreed to meet her. We arranged to meet at the same park where we had met before, nay, in the same place where I had first seen her after a month of silence. But this time, I wasn't sure I could keep my composure. I arrived early, my heart pounding in my chest. I wasn't sure what to expect. Part of me wondered if this would be a real conversation, a conversation where she would finally come clean about everything and we could get some sort of resolution. But the other part of me knew this was likely just another attempt at manipulation, another attempt to make me feel sorry for her, to pull me back into the web of lies she had spun. I sat on a bench, watching the people walk by, their lives moving forward while mine felt like it was stuck in neutral. And then I saw her. She was standing a few yards away, looking lost and distant, the same way she had when we first met here. But there was something different about her now. Something broken. She had always been strong, confident, someone I admired. But now, she looked like a shell of the woman I once knew. When she saw me, she walked over slowly, as if unsure whether I would even be there. She didn't smile. She didn't say anything at first. Instead, she stood in front of me, her eyes filled with something I couldn't quite place. Guilt, fear, maybe even regret, but not the love I had once seen there. "I'm glad you came," she said softly, her voice shaking slightly. I looked at her for a long moment, trying to calm the storm inside me, trying to prepare myself for what was about to unfold. "Why?" I asked, my voice cold, but with an edge of desperation that I couldn't quite hide. "Why did you leave? Why didn't you just talk to me?" She lowered her gaze, her hands wringing nervously in front of her. "I didn't know how," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't know how to explain everything. I was scared. I didn't want to hurt you." "But you did anyway," I said, the words coming out sharper than I intended. "You hurt me, Anna. You hurt me more than I ever thought possible. I gave you everything, and you just left. And not just that. You gave yourself to someone else. How could you do that? How could you betray me like that?" Her face crumpled, and I could see the tears welling up in her eyes. She wiped at them quickly as if trying to hide them, but it only made it worse. It only made me feel the gravity of the situation even more. This wasn't just a simple mistake. This wasn't just a one-time lapse in judgment. No, this was a full-blown affair, an emotional betrayal that had lasted months. "I know I did the worst thing possible," she said, her voice full of anguish. "I know I broke your heart. I can't take that back, no matter how much I want to. But please, try to understand I was lost. I didn't know how to fix things with you. I thought I could do it on my own, but I couldn't. I needed someone who understood me. And Daniel was there when I needed him." My heart was pounding in my chest. "Daniel," I repeated, the name tasting bitter in my mouth. "The man you've been seeing behind my back. The man who took you from me. He was there when you needed someone, when you couldn't talk to me." "I didn't know how to talk to you anymore," she said, her voice barely audible now. "I felt like I was invisible. I felt like I didn't matter. You were always so busy with work, always so focused on everything else. Now I needed someone to see me, to hear me." The pain of her words hit me like a freight train. I had been so consumed with work, so wrapped up in providing for us, that I hadn't noticed the cracks forming in our relationship. I hadn't seen how she was slipping away, how she was feeling ignored invisible. And now, here we were, with everything broken and no way to put it back together. But even as I understood her pain, even as I tried to empathize with her feelings of loneliness, I couldn't forgive her. I couldn't just sweep everything under the rug and pretend like it didn't happen. The betrayal ran too deep. The lies were too numerous. "You don't get to do that to me," I said, my voice trembling now, not with anger, but with the weight of what was happening. "You don't get to tell me you were lonely. You don't get to tell me you needed someone else and expect me to just forgive you. You chose him. You made that choice. And now, here we are. You want to come back and pretend everything's fine?" She stepped closer, her hands reaching out as if to touch me, but I stepped back, my body stiff with the realization that I couldn't be close to her anymore. Not like this. Not after what she had done. "I never meant to hurt you," she said, her voice desperate, almost pleading. "I never meant for it to go this far. But Daniel, he made me feel wanted. He made me feel seen. And I don't know how to fix it." "You can't fix it, Anna," I said, my voice firm, the finality in my words settling between us. "You've already destroyed it. You've already made your choice. You've already walked away from me." There was a long silence. And in that silence, I realized something. There was no going back. There was no repairing the damage. No matter how much she apologized, no matter how many times she said she was sorry, the truth was clear. She had chosen Daniel. She had been emotionally and physically involved with him. She had betrayed me, and now there was nothing left to salvage. The moment of clarity. As I stood there, facing her one last time, I felt the heaviness of the moment settle deep in my chest. The years we had spent together, the life we had built, the love we had shared, none of it mattered anymore. It had all been reduced to nothing. I was angry, I was hurt. But most of all, I was exhausted. Exhausted from the lies. Exhausted from the constant questioning. Exhausted from trying to hold on to something that was already gone. "I think it's time for you to go," I said quietly, my voice steady despite the storm raging inside me. "I can't do this anymore. I can't live in this pain, in this betrayal. I need to heal, and I can't do that with you here." Her face crumpled at my words, and I saw the weight of what was happening hit her. She was losing me. She had already lost me. "I'm sorry," she whispered again, but I couldn't hear it anymore. "I know," I said softly, my heart heavy, but my mind made up. "But I can't keep doing this. You've already broken it, and I'm done." With that, I turned and walked away, leaving her behind, standing there in the same park where we had shared so many memories. But now it felt like a place I could never return to. The person I once knew was gone, and so was the man who had been in love with her.